1 week season.
Hello, friends. I don't know how much I can do Jim Nance, but as those of you who know me know, I love golf, and it is U.S. Open week, so very exciting week for sports. We've got U.S. Open, and of course, we've got Wake and Snake today. So for those of you who tuned in or tried to tune in earlier, had a little bit of a recording snafu. So my esteemed colleague Maximus and I are going to try again in the $2 today. We'll spend some time reviewing the $20 draft. I think we had 5 or 6 OWS subscribers join us earlier today. So we will, as promised, we'll review those teams, give some feedback. And I'm going to hop in here with my esteemed colleague Maximus, as Mike is on vacation. So we're giving him a break. We're bringing in strong reinforcements. Maximus, how is life treating you today?
Round 2, ding, ding.
Round two. How's life in Florida, my friend?
Hot and humid. The humidity bomb is officially active in the afternoons down here for sure. And but yeah, I'm used to it. I've been here long enough, I guess, to be ready for the elements, so to speak, of the afternoon thunderstorms that pass really fast, and then it gets clearer at night. How about you up in Atlanta way?
Atlanta is good. When we recorded earlier today, it was thunderstorming here, and today now, as I'm sitting by a window, it's actually clearing up, giving me some more natural light. So I do love that. We are queued up in a $2, and it looks like it actually has just filled.
Yep.
So I would say let's be nimble here. We'll hop into this $2. We'll hop into this $2 lobby, and then at the end, for those of you who have tuned in and drafted with us earlier, we'll pull those teams. We'll give some feedback on those. I won't leave you hanging, and we'll go from there. So let's see who we may have in the lobby this time. Oh, I see some. I do see some friendly faces. I see Steve, you there in the 10 hole, Pete in the 8 hole. I'm here in the 7 hole. I know Piano Teacher. I know McMahon joined us earlier today. I actually know Terry Rice from another Discord. So yeah, a lot of friendly faces in this room. Should be a good one. So we'll get through. We'll talk through some of the news that has come this week as we draft along. And for those of you who are watching with us live, if you've got any questions, anything you want to chat about, feel free to throw them in the Best Ball Plus Discord or in the comments here on YouTube. So, Pete, appreciate. Steve is a Floridian. He is a Floridian. It's hibernation time in daytime Florida. Yeah, it could be quite hot there. As Georgians, we're not dealing with just that. Quite that yet. So, Pete, it looks like you're joining us in the 8 hole. We're glad to have you here as well. Maximus, I don't know if I've ever asked you. Are you a golf fan? Will you be tuning into the U.S. Open this week?
No, I mean, I like the sport of golf, but yeah, I don't follow it these days. I just don't have the time. I know you and Mike are big golf guys, so I'm sure you're excited about it. But unfortunately, I don't have much to contribute in that field with you.
Yeah, well, no sweat. I guess we'll give a little, maybe a little teaser here. Mike and I have talked about doing OWS's first PGA show regarding the U.S. Open, and to be determined on that. As you know, Mike is on vacation, which is why it's you and me today. But we may look to put something out on Wednesday, given some thoughts for both of us on the field, on the strategy, talking game theory, things of that nature as it relates to PGA. Is it something both of us really enjoy ourselves? So more to come on that. Be tuned into the Discord for more info on that. In the $20 this afternoon, I would think I was in the 8 or 9 hole and went with Puka. So we're going to go Nico Collins here just, to mix it up. I don't want to draft a similar team. that I drafted earlier. Although, I don't hate the team I drafted earlier. And later today, we'll at the end of the stream, we'll review the teams that we do here in this $2 amongst the folks who are tuned in now, drafting with us here. We'll review some of those teams, and then we will review the $20 draft we did this afternoon as well to kind of give some feedback. So board starts off pretty standard here. I would say the only I'm typically used to seeing Jefferson go second overall. I do see him slide a little bit in these drafts, but pretty much, par for the course here in the first round. We try to keep a lot of these subscribers protected with some of the strategy that we talk about behind the paywall, as you know, Steve. But, one of the things that I always like to point out, if you looked at the results from last year, even though it was a really running back heavy year, with really strong seasons from Saquon Barkley, from Derrick Henry, from Bijan Robinson, still 97 of the top 100 teams drafted a wide receiver in the first round. And even though Jamar Chase had a really strong season, it wasn't just him. There were, I think, 6 different wide receivers taken in the first round. So that's generally where I like to lean. I like to lean into the wide receiver early. Doesn't mean you can't get there with a running back in the first round. I do feel like it is a little bit of an uphill battle going that direction. So we've got some more stats for subscribers this season. Mike has started putting out his training sessions for this year. I have done a deeper dive into the previous, top 100 teams for the previous few years. We'll have some nuggets in training sessions as well as the summer progresses. So I see you went Nacua and AJ Brown. I like that start for you as well.
I took your Puka from the last draft. We tagged into the ring.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's some good promise there. As he enters his third year now. I like what we've seen. I like what we've seen from Puka, and I think I think adding to the offense is only going to help him with Davante Adams. I think take a little pressure off him, kind of replacing Cooper Kupp there in Los Angeles, and I think that'll be an exciting offense for 2025.
Yeah, I love both of them. I mean, Sean McVay is such a wizard with definitely utilizing Puka in a number of ways all over the field and even in rushing scenarios. So he's definitely a multifaceted player. You always knock on wood for the health, of course, which is nothing we can do about. But if he's healthy, I think Davante Adams kind of, pressures the defense a little bit more. Like he can't be the only focal point. And I think that's going to unlock even more of his potential as he evolves in this offense. And is it his second year or third year for Puka?
I think it's his third year.
Third year, okay, yeah.
I lean on Mike for all the big time obvious facts, but yeah, I'm pretty confident it's his third year.
All right, well, let's go Ty Freak, I guess. Let's roll the dice.
Yeah.
I got Xavier Worthy in our last draft, who I had not taken in any of my drafts yet. It just so happened he's either always taken when I want to take him, or sometimes the ADP, it's a little early. But in this case, again, this could be a powerful start depending on, are the Dolphins going to bounce back? I know Mike did an article about some undervalued situations of certain receiver cores of different teams, and the Dolphins are definitely one of them.
Yeah, so if you're a Best Ball Plus subscriber and you haven't had a chance to check out Mike's articles around undervalued players, it's a great read. Go to oneweekseason.com and you can find the Best Ball content there. Speaking of Best Ball content, we did actually have a price reduction last week, down from $99 to $89. So now is as good a time as any to sign up, get behind the paywall content. with rankings, strategy, weekly articles, training sessions, really great stuff. From a team that has had some great success in best ball, including yourself. I think last year you had a team finish in the top 20. So we'll jump into that kind of the next turn and give you a second to kind of chat about this. This is an interesting decision. Am I interested in James Cook? Maybe. I don't have a ton of James Cook. Yeah.
As Billy was just saying, guys, the definitely it's worth its weight in gold if you're going to focus on drafters, especially with the cumulative scoring contest, which sets itself apart from the playoff formats. Mm-hmm. And Mike does just such a thorough job of training each and every week as his courses materialize throughout the course of the next couple months here. And as someone who, I only started doing drafters last year. And, it's your own instincts along with the, framework of a process that Mike pumps out is definitely a winning formula. And that's why we kind of give as much as we can, keep behind the paywall, and definitely well worth the small investment to what OWS is offering with the training that's going to be upcoming here over the next couple months.
Yeah. Well, since we've got you on the stream, I definitely want to shout you out. I know both myself and Mike have had some good finishes in this contest or in the $2 contest or in the playoff contest as well in terms of best ball. But you in your first year had a great squad, had a great run at it. I think going into the week, I think you were in third place, kind of got a poor run out in it, but again, a top 20 finish. Let's pull up the squad here. You want to talk through it quick, and I'll give you a shout out while when you get up to drafting. It looks like you went with a 2693 construction, which is we get into some of Billy's kind of, we'll call it trainings, potentially later in the summer. We'll tell you that is the most common and likely, most optimal structure from what we've seen looking at historical rosters in the top 100. But yeah, I'm curious to kind of see where you went. Looks like you drafted out of the 7-hole with Jamar Chase in the first round.
Yeah, this was actually a $2. I can't remember exactly when the team was drafted. I think it may have been May though. It's definitely an early team. And 2693 seems to be a pretty solid setup based on kind of the protocol of what we're looking to go for, where and when of rostering a team in this format. Lamar, I took a quarterback on the earlier side. Mike's team from 2 years ago, his 7th place finish, I think he had Lamar as well.
He did.
And then really with this team, I was actually one of the few teams in the top 20, maybe the only one that didn't have Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry. Mm-hmm. However, as I'm about to pick here, let's see. It
kind of goes kind of one of the fat things that we talk about. While there will be some inflection points and guys that are really helpful to have, those were the 2 highest scoring running backs far and away. You still managed, a top 20 out of 50 some odd thousand rosters without either of them. So it really goes to show that just the strong construction, the fundamentals of things that, the OWS team here does a great job of teaching and teaching you how to fish, not telling you who to pick, but kind of giving you the framework on how to build, when to pick certain types of players, certain structures of builds, how that can turn out to be a great success for you.
Yeah, you nailed it. In spite of the variance of a couple of aspects that may have been adverse to the overall teaching and construction, it was definitely a testament to that roster construction could still hold its own and be able to compete with some of the in this case some of the running backs that definitely they were able to avoid injury for the most part, and they were on very good offenses. And even at their advanced ages, give me a second here. Go with
Yeah, you're back on the clock here.
We'll
But
go
yeah,
ahead.
no, great squad, great result. I know we had several other OWS subscribers with teams in the top. I know we had multiple in the top 40 or 50. I think Dank had a top 20 team as well, another contributor. So yeah, very exciting. Looking forward to more strong stuff from the OWS community this year. Personally, I think our edge is even larger this year based on the run out that we had last year, where I think you'll see running back be likely prioritized too much. I think the pendulum will swing too much into prioritizing running backs. Let's see where I want to go here.
Yeah, I just did something with my last pick to always be aware of, and that is I took 2 running backs with the same bye week. So I just have to be careful going forward to not duplicate that again. I think it's okay to have, a few duplicates here and there if it makes sense on somebody that you want, but definitely guys be mindful not to go overboard there with the bye week situation, which I just did. On a small level.
Yeah, certainly not a roster crusher. Just I wouldn't draft another week 14 running back out of your next probably 4. I think you probably need 4 other. It can't be that. Mads OX, yes, we are finally on. We appreciate you hopping on. Apologies for the snafu. I think I didn't hit the correct record button. I've done plenty of these streams, and it was funny enough because we got messages like, you're not live. And Maximus and I were chatting, and we were like, it looks like it's live. I see a counter going. It looks like the normal screens, but no. So appreciate you guys hopping in and giving us a second chance here today. Not to worry, my fellow esteemed colleague Mike, aka our normal host, will be back next week, and things will likely run a little bit smoother. So let's hop into a little bit of news while we're here. I think the first bit of news, I saw DK Metcalf went to Mr. Freeze at 40th overall in the 4th round. Probably the big news, one of the 2 or 3 big things that came out in the last week was Aaron Rodgers signing that 1-year deal with the Steelers. Really a big help to the Pittsburgh skill position players. I would expect his ADP to probably settle somewhere around 160 to probably go, in that same area as Stafford, Ward, Sam Darnold. I would expect him to kind of be in that same area. Let me see. I'm on the clock again. Where do I want to go here? Oh, I'm not. Okay, thank God I got 3 seconds.
One away. Yeah, the Aaron Rodgers news. It's interesting. I think it's a 1-year deal. I'm not really that high on him personally for this type of setup, if you will. There's a certain type of quarterback that I typically want to gravitate towards, and he's in a very tough division, of course. But obviously, with what the Steelers had, it's a slight upgrade based on experience alone. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so to me, I think that's I think that makes DK Metcalf's ADP probably stay around the same. I would expect him to stay in the 4th round, but solidifies him. Having a more seasoned, trusted quarterback. It makes me like Pat Freiermuth a bit more than his ADP. He's someone who typically goes much later rounds. I think he becomes a little bit more of a viable option as your tight end too on squads. So one of the big things. I think. What else did we see? We saw Joe Mixon go in the 5th round. News out of Houston today was that Nick Chubb signed a 1-year deal, tentative on passing a physical, but expect that to happen. So to me, that's probably a slight ding into Joe Mixon. It probably hurts his upside. Makes me like his ADP a little bit less. I don't know that it hurts Woody Marks as much. The 3rd round rookie they traded up to get in this year's draft. I think he's an outstanding pass catcher, and I would expect him to challenge Dare Ogabawalu. I never get his name right, but I would expect him to challenge Dare for third down, passing down duties, maybe running the 2-minute drill later. So he's still a guy that I do like in the 17th, 18th round of drafts. Might be someone I try to grab late with Nico Collins, try to lean into that Houston correlation. But we'll see what the draft board brings. I see you're on the clock again.
Okay, I think I want one more round. Who I'm looking for quarterback wise. We'll go ahead. It's a pretty good spot for Mr. TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. So last round I took Josh Downs. I would say the important news as it relates to Indy is the shoulder injury for Anthony Richardson, sustained this week, likely to miss a few weeks into mini camps, into training camps. So to me, that makes it the most likely that we'll see Daniel Jones likely to start the season, or at least starting training camp, getting the reps as the one. Let's see where I am going to go here. Am I going to go Cooper Kupp? I don't know that I have a single share of Quinshon Judkins, and so we're going to do it here. Rookie running back out of Cleveland with the Nick Chubb news with that signing. Obviously, still have Dylan Sampson that they drafted as well. They've still got Jerome Ford in that backfield, but I think there's some good opportunities for the rookies in Cleveland this year. So when you see him slipping in ADP, I think that's an opportunity to grab some shares there of Judkins.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the case-by-case instinct, that the more drafts that you do, and of course that correlates with the more information that comes out, you're able to make decisions where you have a framework that, Mike teaches in the training, but there's always, each draft's going to have their inflection points. They're going to have their case-by-case scenario where the more that you're studying and staying on top of things, you can make a well-informed decision based on the when and where for picks like that. So, yeah. So it is, I love that. I love that feature about drafting on, you have something in mind, but, can you adjust, especially in a fast draft, can you adjust, to plan B, plan C, maybe even plan D, to be able to still, kind of maintain the flow of what you're trying to do.
Yeah, no, you nailed it there. And I think that I really like the fast drafts, especially in the $2. I think it's really good for help keeping your DFS game sharp, thinking on your feet. And you're in I think in these drafts, one of the underappreciated skills that I think kind of flies under the radar is just kind of paying attention to what others around you are doing. Much more so, like in your position here. Let me decide what I want to do here. Let's lean in. We're going to really lean into Houston here with Nico Collins and Higgins. So strong possibility CJ Stroud's going to be in my future, but we will see. But yeah, one of the things as you're drafting, I always like to pay attention to is just keeping an eye, like when you're to me, like in the 2-3 hole or the 10-11 hole, just kind of seeing what the guys around you have, where thinking about this is an opportunity where I don't know that there was anybody that you were dying to potentially take, but with Cujo and M. Gianni both having quarterbacks already, potentially a spot you could push Williams there, Caleb Williams there, and potentially, likely get him again at 111 with neither of those teams having any Bears and having quarterbacks. But, sometimes is it really is the juice worth the squeeze? And you've got DJ Moore, you've got DeAndre Swift already. So, not pushing the envelope, I get it in situations like that as well, for sure. But just paying attention to what's going on, I think, is a complete underrated skill. I think it's pretty similar to poker, where, you get a lot of decent players who will only look at their cards and not paying attention to what anybody else is doing at the table. And I think that's just an added skill that you get a lot better at by doing more of these $2 fast drafts. I think they're really good practice.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And the $2 level, such a small investment to kind of sharpen your skills and get some practice in. So I'm going to pick a guy that I don't have at all on any of my teams, and that would be let me make sure of his bye week, Zach Charbonnet, who I believe can be more of a split backfield than people may realize, along with Kenneth Walker there in Seattle. I think in the 10th round, getting a guy who's a 1.5 to a 2 is a good value there. Walker, who's very talented, has definitely dealt with a lot of lower body injuries. Zach Charbonnet is a pass catching running back by trade as well. And with Sam Darnold at the helm now in Seattle, he's one of those players where just so happens I haven't drafted him yet. Like you were just saying with one of your guys, I think a couple rounds earlier. And I thought it was a good opportunity to continue to fill. I'm a little light on the receivers, but the 4 that I do have are all heavy hitters if they're healthy. So I'll have to catch up later in the draft, which that's the beauty of it. You're able to do based on what the room's given you.
Yeah, I mean, you've started out with 4 elite wide receivers, all with different bye weeks. That's strong, and I think this is probably a build you end up with 8 or so wide receivers and time to fill them in the last 9 rounds. You've got a good start here and working on some running back depth. I like that you've added some additional depth, made sure it's not week 14 buys. I like that. I leaned into Tajay Spears about a round or half a round early, try to pair him with Calvin Ridley, just kind of give me another team stack to kind of target in terms of correlation there, with 2 Titans, have 2 Houston Texans on this build, some opportunities to add some additional correlation later with some other guys. So that's kind of where I'm at in terms of my build as well. I think it's key to kind of have a plan for as the draft evolves, kind of see what's there, and but also to be nimble, because as you see, you will get sniped. Guys that you thought might be there don't end up being there, and so just being able to be nimble, to think on your feet, to kind of see how the board is presenting itself, I think is really key.
Yeah, piano teacher just swiped me inadvertently. I was looking for that to be my second quarterback in JJ McCarthy, having Hawkinson, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those. Steve, that's one of those things. I think as we keep doing more drafts, I'm seeing JJ McCarthy get pulled up a lot at this 122 to 124 range pick by the Justin Jefferson drafter, just knowing that it's unlikely it's going to make it back to him. I've seen that happen quite a bit. Trying to decide if I want to push this, what I want to do here. I think I'm going to go Ray Davis and kind of it's something that I like to do with not generally with my number 1 running back, but kind of shore up a backfield with Cook and Ray Davis on the same team. It's something that we've talked about in trainings. I think I'm more apt to it than Mike, but it's something that I really like to do and fine with several quarterbacks that I think could make it back to me here. Herbert, Stroud, Cam Ward, all guys that are strong on my build. So if 1 or 2 of them go at this turn, I felt like it was worth it. I didn't think I would see Ray Davis. Again, just certainly with Pete there in the whatever that is, the 8-hole to my right with Josh Allen. Felt like that was correlation he may be trying to get. But, just again, being aware of your surroundings. So apologies to you there, Pete, if you were trying to grab Davis there and I snagged him for you. But, one of the things that I always find interesting, in these things when you've got a lot of folks drafting along, there's no collusion going here. I'm trying to win. Just, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to do any favors for subscribers. I'm certainly not trying to be a jerk, but I'm trying to build the best team I can. And I would expect the same from anyone else in the drafts. So something Mike and I always like to try to give as a disclaimer if we've done a few drafts together like you and I are doing here. I see you're on the clock, so I'm This is.
Yeah, I took Cedric Tillman a little early. I actually like his prospects this year. Potentially, he really came on until he got injured last year, and Judy is perceived as the main guy there. But I think Tillman, we got to wait to see what the quarterback situation is, of course. But I do like Tillman's potential this year if they have an offense that's at least semi-functional.
Man, to me, this is a gamble. I'm gonna gamble, and I'm gonna tell you why. I'm like,
roll the dice.
I really like Tyler Warren. I love that he's here for me at 138. Even though I don't have a quarterback yet, I'm gonna pull the board up and explain why I'm. Even though there's some strong value here in Dak falling, in Herbert falling, in Stroud falling, like these are all guys that help my team. I've got Ladd McConkey. I've got Nico Collins. Like there are strong picks that I could go here, but in looking to my left, I've got two quarterbacks, and the 1-2 spots doesn't have a Houston player, doesn't have an LA Chargers player on their team. So I'm looking and saying there's a reasonable possibility that one of those guys is going to fall back to me at 151. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but I think those are the type of situations where I think for most people, they would automatically just click, this is the guy I want. And he's there past ADP. Doesn't mean it's going to happen and I'm going to get them both to fall back to me. But I thought like there was a possibility that it might. And to me, a lot of times I'm going to push and try to build a really strong team. And it may end up coming to bite you in the butt where it doesn't work out for you. Like I think if Gatekeeper here takes a third quarterback, it's going to be Dak to pair with Lamb. And it's a week 10 bye where he's got 8-9 already. Doesn't mean it's going to work out. Like I may get sniped, but it allows you the opportunity to build a much stronger team than often happens.
Yeah, sometimes the best laid plans, as the saying goes, can be a blessing in disguise if you don't get them. Because maybe you have, like, for instance, a couple picks ago, I was talking about the J.J. McCarthy thing. But on the flip side, I needed wide receivers, too, in that spot. And so, sure, I didn't get the quarterback to maybe pair with my tight end in this case. But I got a spot that was needed to continue to build some capital, if you will. And so it's kind of a blessing in disguise. All right, so speaking of quarterbacks, let me see here. I was hoping to make sure on the bye week. And we are going to go ahead with Tua. I got Tyreek Hill, so it's a good pairing, of course. We hope that that offense gets back up to speed. Mike McDaniel's always a good offensive mind, so the potential is there.
Yeah, that's another opportunity with Dak Prescott still on the board, and the two guys to your right, one with two quarterbacks already, and none of them having any Miami Dolphins. If there was somebody that you really liked, like if you really liked Braylon Allen, or you know what I mean, like if there's somebody that you really like, that for me, that's a spot where I would consider pushing, because if someone's going to take another quarterback, it's probably going to be Dak, not the guy that you want. But again, you got to, where did we go? Mad said, Stat, you forgot the idiot factor. Correct. There's always going to be the idiot factor. People are going to do that. You know, I feel like every room, Pete says it's easier to push quarterback this year. I don't know that I 100% agree with that. I think each room is specific. You know, sometimes you see quarterbacks get pulled up really early, and there's just a run. So I think that you've got to try to read the room, which is tougher to do when we're live streaming here, when we're talking about, you know, news and talking about everybody else's team. But I really like trying to do it. I feel like it keeps me on my toes when I'm doing these type of drafts. So I don't expect Pete to take the quarterback that I'm hoping will be there at 162. It's because there's multiple quarterbacks. Again, am I going to practice what I preach and try to push Cam Ward another round? I don't think so. I think I'll grab him here at 162. I don't know that there's anything here that I'm dying to grab that I feel like it's worth taking the risk of him not being there.
And a good segue there, you know, and I think actually Pete was mentioning it in our Discord earlier, and that is the feeling of impatience. And it's like, you know, you have a plan, you see how the draft falls, no reason to be impatient, just have fun with it, let it flow, and then, you know, kind of be thinking, obviously, when it's a fast draft, it's a little more, not knee-jerk, but a little more sudden. But slow drafts, obviously, it's much easier to do this. But, you know, just kind of be aware of your surroundings, be aware of where people are going around you, and kind of have a couple of ideas of your needs or what you could do in mind. So you have that plan A, B, C, or D, just in case the ideal situation, somebody prematurely sniped you on it, which I know Pete's no stranger to that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's an OWS subscriber, but I really liked what Marlowe did here. Maybe it's Patrick Marlowe. Maybe he's a big San Jose Sharks fan. Went and grabbed Hunter Henry a full round early to pair with Drake May, looking to say, okay, I don't know that he did this, but Piano's only got one tight end. Terry Rice didn't have any tight ends at the time. Like, there's a strong possibility there's going to be a couple tight ends go between his picks. If that's a guy who really wants for the correlation, I like kind of pulling him up early there.
Yeah, that's the other side of it. It's okay to you know, if you feel strong about someone and it's not matching up to the ADP, and you're instinctually feeling, hey, let me just take him now. You know, ADP is only kind of like a guideline. And also, when you're not completely going with ADP, you're separating yourself from other people who are building their teams a little more uniform. You know, take some people early, you know, and who you feel strongly about, and dividends, you know, down the road if you're right about it. Let's see here.
Yeah, I know it's something that Mike and I will talk about in a future training. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think that it's probably a little bit more important, believe it or not, in early rounds, just because you would be so shocked at how common certain pairings of players are. You know, for example, I'm just going to scroll up to the board. Like Jamar Chase, for example, at this 101, he's paired a ton with guys like Jackson Smith-Njigba, Marvin Harrison Jr. You know what I mean? Like these same similar wide receivers, T. Higgins, like he's paired a ton with those guys at the turn. You know what I mean? Chase goes basically 101 almost every time. And then it's the same slew of guys that he's paired with. He's hardly ever paired with guys like Mike Evans or Xavier Worthy, because these guys almost always go in this half of the draft over here, and they never fall to 48, 49. So to me, if you want to be more unique, that's a more unique pairing that I would personally want to lean more into. A little probably later in the season as we get more into August. I find that has more importance, just because the ADP has really settled into where it will likely finish. Close to that, unless there's really big news. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a great shout in terms of not being a slave to the ADP. If there's someone that you really like, being willing to take him a few rounds early. Let me pull up my team and let me decide what I want to do on this next. Yeah, I think I'm going to push it. Do you only have 2? No, you've got 3. You're not going to take a 4th quarterback. Where are we? We've got a 2, 5, 6, 3. We started out. We could use another wide receiver probably. Let's take a look at what best available is. Do I want to grab Chig Okonkwo here? Maybe.
Let me see where you're at. Okay. Oh, okay. I see what you're thinking is there.
Yeah, he's not. I'm not sure. Even though I don't know that he'll be there, and I like that correlation. Let me finish tight end basically, and get more correlate. You know, the question was, do I go Chig here or do I wait and take Dalton Schultz at 199 to pair with Stroud for me? It'd be my third. That was kind of the thinking. I have more Schultz than I have Okonkwo in drafts. So again, just looking to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
This is a build where if Giddens or Marks makes it back to me at 199, I'll probably lean into either of those with just how the rest of this team is shaping up. For me personally.
Well, one thing I'm seeing with your team is, and just to note people, where Billy took his tight ends, definitely a position that you don't have to feel impatient about. You know, if you don't get one of those early elite guys, which to be honest with you, I haven't been doing too many of like the Trey McBrides because I just feel he's a little too early for my taste in ADP. You're talking about a guy who, you know, he had hardly any touchdowns at all last year, and that's what we're looking for. I'm sure the variance will correct that to a certain extent, but productive player. But his ADP is such to where it's very unlikely, except to diversify profile. If you're going to max out this tournament, of course, it's always good to have a little exposure theoretically. But the tight end spot's one of those where, you know, you can take your time, not feel impatient about it. There's a lot of late round targets that are viable. And if they're on good offenses, they can definitely contribute to that position for you.
Yep. No, agree.
Okay. Let's see. 1, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so speaking of,
yeah, I see Nick Chubb just went to piano teacher, paying attention there. He's leaning into the Chubb signing. I like that. That was probably who I was going to draft. A little bit of a bummer, but that's okay. We'll go grab Woody Marks here. Probably be done at running back and fire a couple of wide receivers here to close out the draft for me. So, Pete giving you some props here. Yeah. Oh, good to have a backup plan. Good to be nimble when you're doing these drafts. Kind of getting an idea of, you know, what teams might do. But, you know, again, as Madso points out here, you know, people do random things. People are weird with their drafting. You know, people are doing goofy things all the time. So just kind of trying to think through, what if this were to happen? What if this guy I think is going to be there goes? What does that leave me for other options? So yeah, great points there, Madso and Pete. If you guys haven't already, if you haven't subscribed to the 1 Week Season YouTube channel, please give us a sub. Please give us a thumbs up and a like. It really goes a long way to drive traffic, and we enjoy keeping this content, weekly content, best ball content free. As we get into the regular season, we will continue to have lots of free daily content, both on Twitter, aka X, as well as YouTube. Both myself and Maximus, we both do weekly shows there. Maximus, you're more FanDuel focused. So we really try to hit all of our audiences. I know you're on the clock again, Steve, so I will take the bug out of your ear. All
right, I'm going to be nice. I'm going to play nice. Well, no, actually, you have your 3 tight ends. Okay. Well,
yeah,
actually,
Nick Schultz. It doesn't bother me. I'm taking a quarterback with my next pick. I'm either going to take Aaron Rodgers or Daniel Jones.
I actually prefer Theo Johnson. I like his.
Yeah.
He's got some potential this year with Wilson, and then maybe eventually Jackson Dart entering the fray there. And that completes my tight ends. So see, guys, there's you can go really deep with tight ends, even the 18th round, and that Theo Johnson's a legitimate starting tight end, at least at this point.
Yeah.
Giants.
Two. Yeah, a lot of guys over here to my left have two quarterbacks. So I think that if I'm interested in grabbing another, this is probably where I do it. I don't know that they make it back. I don't know that I have a preference between Rodgers or Daniel Jones here. I've got more Indy with Warren and Josh Downs, so I'll probably lean into Daniel Jones here. But Aaron Rodgers would have been totally fine with Freiermuth there, and easy enough to grab actually Calvin Austin's gone already, but Wilson is there. So there's late stacking options for both. So for me, this will be a 3-6-8-3 build. I'll grab two wide receivers to kind of close out. To me, the one thing I want to potentially be just conscious of is buys. Probably don't want to grab 4 wide receivers that all have the same bye week. So probably avoid. I'm okay with taking one more week 12 guy. I probably won't take 2. But that's kind of the thinking there. For me, no Cat Max is how we doing today. Thank you for tuning in, Mac. Always great to be with you, and maybe we'll see you on the Big Disco Energy stream tonight at 7. I always try to tune in there when I can and support a fellow contributor there, fellow content creator. So yeah, I mean, we see Darnold and Aaron Rodgers go there at the turn, so potential that I may not have gotten my pick if I had waited. So again, just kind of being conscious of what's around you. Since I went Daniel Jones, I may go A.D. Mitchell if he's still there for me in 2 picks. Not a guy I'm super high on, but again, just thinking of the correlation on this team.
What's bothering you, Pete? I see that bothers me. It must have been the Theo Johnson pick. I know he's a Giant.
Yeah, he may have been leaning into that with Dart, since he had Neighbors there. He may have been trying to build a New York stack there. Probably where he was probably going with that.
Gotcha. Was it intentional, Pete?
Yeah, again, you're trying to build the best team that you could build.
Exactly. All right. So speaking of, for me, looks like I'm going to finish out with some wide receivers. 2 that are way down from what the ADP is showing. But I'm actually very curious what their roles will be. We're going to take Deontay Johnson, who is now a Cleveland Brown. And, that wide receiver crew, you got Judy, you got Tillman, but Deontay Johnson in the slot there definitely could have usable weeks, as we like to call them,
Sure.
in a ladder spot for the wide receiver core. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Cleveland offense it's going to be it's one that I'm intrigued about to see how that plays out through camp. I'm curious to see if we get Shedeur Sanders starting week 1. I don't think we will, but we might. I think there's a lot of uncertainty at a lot of positions. We don't really know who the running back 1's going to be from that team. You know what I mean? There's a lot of training camp battles and situations to monitor. I took Quinshon Judkins, where he could be RB1, he could be RB3. We don't really know. So yeah, you're back on the clock, and we'll wrap it up. We'll talk through the teams that we've got here. I don't have any other kind of pressing news of things that have happened this week since our last stream. I think we've covered the three big ones. More things that will be top of mind. I was you were talking Dante Johnson. I was thinking I was going to grab Dante Thornton here for Las Vegas. Just trying to see if there's anywhere else I want to go. Yeah, I'm good with that. Grab me a different bye week, or Ty Felton is a guy I like as well in these situations, in these spots.
Yeah, I ended my team with Mike Williams. He's another very interesting case, being back with the Chargers, I believe.
Yep,
And
he is.
we don't know if Keenan Allen's going to go back to the Chargers or not. But, Mike Williams as the last wide receiver pick could legitimately be a wide receiver 2, along with Trey Harris, kind of that 2-3, along with McConkey. And and of course, he's familiar with that offense already. So interesting how that'll play out with him, and if they're going to retake Keenan Allen back, or what's going to happen with him.
Yeah. Well, it looks like Milkman still got one more pick to go, but let's go right to left, and we'll just talk through the teams in this draft. We'll pivot over to the $20 main draft we did this afternoon with the scheduling snafu in terms of recording, and then we'll wrap up and get to it. So, Steve, I've got you here. You went 2-6-9-3. For those just listening in and not watching on YouTube, he's got Caleb Williams and Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback. Running back, Chuba Hubbard, Travion Henderson, DeAndre Swift, Zach Charbonnet, J.K. Dobbins, and Jerome Ford. So got some more correlation there with DeAndre Swift to go along with Caleb Williams. Running back, you go Puka Nacua, A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, DJ Moore, Hollywood Brown, Cedric Tillman, De'Ami Brown, Deontay Johnson, and Mike Williams. So get some more correlation there with DJ Moore to go along with Caleb Williams, as well as Tyreek Hill to go along with Tua. And then you wrap up with tight end. You have TJ Hawkinson's, Isaiah Likely, and Theo Johnson. I find on my Tua teams, I find myself taking Malik Washington a lot in this 20th round for some additional correlation, but I don't mind Mike Williams here at all. So I like this build. I think the only, and you called it out, I don't love with my first two running backs being the same bye week, but I think they're both late in the season. You could see Charbonnet develop a bigger role depending on what happens with J.K. Dobbins, who I believe is still an unsigned free agent. Depending on where he ends up, he could have a bigger role. So, overall, I like what you did here. I like the correlation, strong construction. I like this build.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, again, like we said in the beginning, Henderson is somebody that's interesting too. Henderson is capable of being a 3-down back with the Patriots. I know they have Ramondre there, but I'm definitely high on the potential of Henderson in a Vrabel type of offense. So that'll be interesting how that plays out. But yeah, overall, I think for a fast draft, it was I'm not hating myself for anything. So
yeah, no, I think you did fine. I think we all make. I'm not saying you made a mistake. I think we all make some mistakes or clicks, and that's totally fine. So we're gonna move over to Pete G, who's in the chat here chatting with us. So Pete, appreciate you drafting along. Pete goes 3-6-9-2. Josh Allen, Geno Smith, Jackson Dart. Don't mind taking a shot on Dart late there for a third quarterback. It's a spot where I don't know that you need a third quarterback when you grab Josh Allen in the top 3 or 4 rounds, but I don't mind it at all. So running back, he's got Kenneth Walker, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Rico Dowdle, Jalen Wright, Devin Neal. Cujo is in the disco. Cujo, I didn't realize you were a Best Ball Plus guy too. Apologies, I didn't recognize the name. We will do your team next. Thanks for the shout. Running back, I like pairing Geno Smith with Kenneth Walker. I like that correlation there. I think it's the only Seattle piece that Pete was able to grab there on the team, but I don't mind that. Again, similar situation. You've got some more established guys with Walker, Najee Harris, and Travis Etienne. And then you've got some roles with some more questions with Rico Dowdle, Jalen Wright, Devin Neal. Be curious to see what happens. Let me see. We've got. Oh, you know what? I was talking Geno Smith and Kenneth Walker, just a brain fart. Obviously, Geno Smith's on Las Vegas now, not on Seattle. So, great catch. I think someone in the chat, Mad So caught me on that. Yeah, great shout there. And then he goes wide receiver. He's got 9 wide receivers. Malik Neighbors, F1 with Terry McLaurin, Chris Olave, Jaden Reed, Darnell Mooney, Jack Beck, Tyler Lockett, Ray McLeod, and Curtis Samuel. Like having some correlation there with Buffalo, with Josh Allen. Got some correlation there with Jackson Dart, with Neighbors there as well. I like that. And then additional at tight end, he goes Brock Bowers to get some correlation with Geno Smith, which I claimed he didn't have because I'm an idiot. And Dalton Kincaid to pair with Josh Allen. Yeah, I don't mind this. Generally, I am in favor of 3 tight end builds, but I don't mind this. You use the draft capital on Brock Bowers in the second round. Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're going to spend the draft capital on a Brock Bowers, on a Trey McBride, generally in the second round, like I'm okay with 2 tight end builds. And Dalton Kincaid's kind of he's great because he pairs well with Josh Allen on this. I think that's fine. I don't like waiting much later than Dalton Kincaid for your second tight end if you're only going to go 2. So yeah, I like this as well. Wrong team, yeah. It is the jersey. You see the jersey and totally wrong. Stanley, can I take a look at Gatekeeper? I absolutely can. I'd be happy to give feedback on all of them. Anything you wanted to share with on Pete's squad before I moved on to a different squad, Maximus? We've Mike and I have never done this before, but I like giving feedback, hearing different perspectives on teams. So
yeah, absolutely. Mix it up a little bit. I don't mind the 3 quarterback either with Pete. As a matter of fact, I was very tempted to go Russell Wilson because I had Theo Johnson as a 3rd quarterback. Tua's health, definitely questionable more times than not. Maybe a good insurance policy there because, the Giants have a week 14 bye. I know the talk is Jackson Dart, but unless they're a complete dumpster fire early on, I could definitely see a case to be made where Russell Wilson starts for a good while until later in the season. So he was, I thought, a really good value, still around, in, I believe, the 19th round in that draft. I went ahead because I was a little low on receivers, but I was also thinking about a 3rd quarterback there. And real quick, I fully agree with your take on the Brock Bowers. I think Brock Bowers is the one scenario where technically you only need 2 tight ends because the perception of him is almost like a high-end wide receiver. I mean, he's definitely going to be one of the focal points of that offense. That, 2 tight ends doesn't feel as thin when Brock Bowers, when you're taking him as early as you're taking him.
Sure. And I think if you really want to be real aggressive and you wanted to go a 2 QB build, this is the type of build. And again, Pete, I'm not saying you should have, I'm saying you could. This is the type of build where you could punt on Geno Smith and take another running back or something at 152, with the thought being I'm basically likely playing Josh Allen score most. Well, actually, no. Jackson Dart may not be starting by week 7, so not a situation I would do that. But I think that's something to be cognizant of. If you're going to go 2 QB build and it's going to be someone like a Jackson Dart, you want to make sure your main quarterback has a later bye. Maybe it's somebody like I don't know that I would go 2 quarterbacks with like Bo Nix, but I don't know that any of the premier high scoring quarterbacks have late buys. I think they're all early buys. So something to kind of keep in mind. So let's hop over to Cujo. Let's take a look at what he did here. Cujo goes 2-6-9-3. Jalen Hurts, Jared Goff at quarterback, like that. Yeah, maybe a little early on the second, but I don't mind it because I know you wanted to pair with Amon-Ra there, so I like that. So you've got James Conner, Brian Robinson, Ramondre Stevenson, Rachaad White, Braylon Allen, Justice Hill. So yeah, I mean, I like Conner a lot. I think he's a really strong value with where he's being drafted. Brian Robinson, Ramondre Stevenson, likely to start the season as the RB1s on those teams. And then you've got some upside there with Braylon Allen, Rachaad White, Justice Hill. I don't mind that. I think it's likely that running back's going to be your weakest spot on this team, but yeah, I don't mind that. No Cap Matt giving a great shout out here. Jalen Daniels, a week 12 bye. Yeah, I think if you're going two quarterbacks and you're going Jaden Daniels and Jackson Dart, I think that's a situation where that's viable. Good shout there, No Cap. At running wide receiver, he goes Amon-Ra, Drake London, Xavier Worthy, the rookie Ted McMillan, Rashad Bateman, Josh Palmer, Wan'Dale Robinson, Isaac Tesla, and Elijah Moore. For those of you who have tuned into these streams before, know that Tesla is a guy that I'm really high on. Would have been someone I would have taken if he wasn't taken at that spot. Would have probably tried to grab him at the next turn for me. So I really like that. I like this. I think this is really great construction. Good correlation with Goff, Amon-Ra, and Tesla. I think that's really strong. For me, again, it's not the end all be all. You've got Hurts here at a great value, falling to 62. Maybe it's a spot where you're considering Dallas Goedert later to get some correlation, but again, not something you have to do. Hurts gives you that rushing upside, specifically with the tush push, where you don't necessarily need wide receivers to be with him. So yeah, no, I don't mind this team at all. And then at tight end, you go Laporta, Jawan Johnson, Ben Sinnott. So 3 different bye weeks there. Again, more correlation with Laporta. I like this team. Strong wide receivers. I'm happy with the quarterbacks. I think you've got some good depth at tight end behind Laporta. I think some things breaking your way, or Brian Robinson or Ramondre Stevenson holding the job and overperforming with some rookies behind them. I think this could be a very strong team. So Cujo, I like this build. Thanks for drafting along with us. I don't know if there's anything I would change. Pete, any feedback for Cujo that you have on this squad?
He definitely got Sam Laporta at a really good value. Initially, Laporta dropped pretty good in this draft. It's interesting. Out of all the elite quarterbacks, I've noticed Hurts dropping quite a bit in the last few that I've been doing. I'm curious why that is, but because the rest of the elite guys, Lamar, Josh, Jaden, they've all pretty much stayed around their ADPs. But I noticed that Hurts has been, in a good way, that's good news to us, but slipping quite a bit. So, sometimes you don't have A.J. Brown, you don't have Devontae Smith, but if he's slipping that far, and it's a value and you don't have a quarterback yet, I still think it's worth taking him. You got Dallas Goedert later that you can pair him with as far as that aspect. So it is interesting that I've been seeing just my own experience and looking at some of the rooms recently that Hurts has been dropping slightly a bit.
Yeah, I was I don't want to say surprised. You certainly could have. I thought that was a spot where you might take Hurts here at 58.
Yeah.
To me, I feel like Hurts and Burrow are the 2 guys that I see out of the top tier of guys that tend to fall. Just because Burrow, especially, like, people want to pair him with either Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. Occasionally you see some pairings with Chase Brown. But since Higgins and Chase Brown and Jamar Chase tend to all be on the left-hand side of the board most of the drafts, they all, Chase is almost always going 101. And a lot of times you'll see T. Higgins go somewhere between 20 and 30. and the same with Chase Brown. So if if Burrow doesn't get taken at this, 4 or 5 turn, and he's kind of slips past the Higgins drafter, a lot of times he'll come all the way back to the Higgins drafter, just because people want to draft him with the correlation. And I think you see that a lot with Hurts. If the Barkley or the Devonta Smith drafter isn't taking him, a lot of times you'll see him fall towards more the A.J. Brown drafter. You do see him go unstacked more often than Burrow, just because he has that rushing upside, specifically with the tush push, where he can have really strong games and not bring a wide receiver along with him. So who else do we need to do? We need to do gatekeeper. We need to do piano teacher. We need to do milkman. We got to do me. So let's do gatekeeper. Let's move our way down. 3683. He goes Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence, Anthony Richardson. Don't mind that. Three quarterbacks. Obviously, the news with Anthony Richardson with his injury has kind of seen him fall a good bit in drafts the last couple rounds. He was going in the 150s, 160s the last couple of months until that news. Now you see him going later than that. I mean, his ADP is down to 193 now. I don't mind that. Certainly if you've got we'll get to it. Let's look at right here at running back. You go Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon, Tyrone Tracy, Rachel Tootin, Miles Sanders, Zach Moss. So you've got Josh Jacobs there as your anchor. Joe Mixon, right around ADP. Tyrone Tracy, I think, has got some upside. I prefer him to Cam Skattebo personally. I think you've got some upside here at running back. Let me make sure you've got the Tootin correlation with Lawrence. I like that. Leaned into even more in that correlation at wide receiver with Travis Hunter. You go CeeDee Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Travis Hunter, Chris Godwin, Jalen Noel, DeAndre Hopkins, Dontavion Wicks, and Trey Tucker. So, you've got the correlation there with Chris Godwin to go along with Baker Mayfield. Leaned into it there with Trevor Lawrence as well, with Tootin and Travis Hunter. And then at tight end, you go Jonnu Smith, Jake Ferguson, and Dalton Schultz. So, I don't mind this at all. I like the construction. 3683, I think, is very viable. Weighted on quarterback, taking Baker at, what is that, the 7th round, and then Lawrence and whatever that usually is around the 11th round or so. I like that. I think you probably could have waited on Anthony Richardson. I think he's probably there for you a round or two later. Just we've seen his ADP drop, but overall, no, I don't mind this at all. I like some of the correlation. Steve, what are your thoughts?
Strong running back group. I think Miles Sanders is another one. He's a great late round pick. Early news out of camp says he's been performing really well so far, and it's a little bit uncertain between Javonte and Jadon Blue and Sanders. Sanders has the experience to easily be a factor in that offense. And then I was going to say, I like Dontavion Wicks as a late target too. Dontavion Wicks, even though Green Bay is a crowded wide receiver room, definitely a candidate to be able to give you usable weeks, as we like to call it, based on, Christian Watson. Don't know when he's going to be back or if he's even going to play at all. And you have Matthew Golden, but he's a rookie, not tried and true yet. And so Dontavion Wicks definitely has a skill set that works in that offense. So I like that pick as late as you can get him. A couple thoughts off the top of my head looking at this team here.
Nice. Well, thank you for drafting along with us. Who was that? That was Gatekeeper we just did?
Was it Cujo or Gatekeeper?
It may have been Cujo. Let's do piano. Let's do piano teacher here.
All right.
So he goes 2693. Kyler Murray, J.J. McCarthy. I like that start. Both guys that I personally like a lot. We go Chase Brown, Amarian Hampton, Tony Pollard, Roshan Johnson, Will Shipley, Nick Chubb. I like that room as well. I think you've got some upside there in terms of some good starting running backs with Chase Brown and Tony Pollard. Likely Amarian Hampton has the potential to be a starting running back as well. And then, you've got some good situations there, with Will Shipley. I think he's a great pick at his ADP. Roshan Johnson, I'm not really sure what the situation is going to be like in Chicago. And then Nick Chubb with the news today, signing with Houston. I like this running back room as well, Piano. Let's see, wide receiver room. Justin Jefferson, Jalen Waddle, Jordan Addison really leaning into that J.J. McCarthy correlation with the Vikings. Trey Harris, Luther Burden, Jalen McMillan, Michael Wilson, Pat Bryant, and Ty Felton. Really leaning into the wide receiver room of Minnesota. Ty Felton is a guy that I really like a lot as a 20th round dart throw. Maybe a little heavy on the Minnesota wide receivers. For me, I may like to see maybe someone different than Jordan Addison there, but I don't mind it. You just got so much of your wide receiver stock into Minnesota where you're likely only getting one usable score out of those three on a given week. I feel like it's unlikely you're going to get 18 to 20 point scores out of multiple Minnesota wide receivers most weeks. But I don't mind it. I like the construction. And then you go Trey McBride, Sanders, and Kmet at tight end. So you've got some correlation there with McBride and Michael Wilson to go along with Kyler. I like that. I think this is a good construction, good foundation. I think this is a good team as well. No mistakes. This early in the season, you're really just kind of drafting based on paper and upside. But no, Piano, I think you did, pianist, my apologies. I think you did a great job here as well. No Cat Mac, how often will we be doing these streams? We do these streams every Monday. Generally they're in the morning. We actually recorded in the morning, had a little bit of a snafu where it didn't record. So Steve and I came back for round 2 doing a $2. We usually do a $20. M. Johnson, Mike, and I do those almost every Monday morning. We'll be live on in X/Twitter to me still, and on YouTube. So thanks for tuning in. And then I think we promised we would quickly review. I know we're a lot longer than usual, so Steve, if you need to drop, no problem. I am going to pull up the draft from earlier and look at those squads as well, because we promised we would do that in the Discord. So let me close this window, make sure I'm pulling the right screen. And I've got that up on screen now. So this was the $20 draft we did this morning. Had a couple of folks in the Discord, McMahon, Black Swan, you, and Pete. So let's start with McMahon. We'll work our way left to right. He goes 3-6-8-3. Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Jackson Dart. James Conner, DeAndre Swift, Tyrone Tracy, Jadon Blue, Kareem Hunt, Emmanuel Wilson at running back. So I like I like the quarterback room here. I like taking late shots on Jackson Dart, specifically on Malik Neighbors' teams. I think that's a great way to lean in. I love that you've got Tyrone Tracy on this as well. A great team to have Jackson Dart. You've got you've got Jalen Hurts here correlated with A.J. Brown. I think that's really strong. And you really leaned into the correlation on this build with Tyreek Hill and Jonnu Smith. So I really do like the correlation on this team, McMahon. I think this is really strong. Wide receiver, you want Malik Neighbors, A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill. So start off with 3 Oh, actually, you got Devontae Smith on this team too. So really leaned in here with Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. Really, really strong start here at wide receiver. Luther Burden, Cedric Tillman, Alec Pierce, Darius Slay. When you start 4 wide receivers, you're kind of expecting to get strong scores out of these guys most weeks. So I like what you did here, kind of waiting a little bit later on your wide receivers. The running back room is a little questionable. I think a lot of this team's success is going to kind of hinder on what you get out of DeAndre Swift and Tyrone Tracy. I think if you get Tyrone Tracy like you got the second half of last year, and he ends up really being the starting back and running with it, and same with DeAndre Swift, if you get a strong season out of Swift, I think this could be a really strong team. Steve, any feedback while I take some water?
Yeah, he definitely has to bank on James Conner continuing to be healthy as he's getting up there in age, although he did last year. Well, except for week 17, which came to bite me because I actually had him on my best team. But yeah, a little, and Tyrone Tracy, that'll be interesting how that situation plays out. Obviously, you have Scatterbo, the rookie, but Tracy's definitely a pass catching running back. Definitely could easily still be the running back 1, at least part of the year, based on how Scatterbo evolves with that offense. So, yeah, I mean, otherwise a little light there, but overall, it's funny, all these 3 quarterback builds. Now it's making me jealous. I should have taken a 3rd quarter on the team I just did, or the team I did in the $2 one. But, yeah, overall, I think it's solid. I mean, the wide receiver room, a couple speculative players down the stretch that will be interesting. I like Alec Pierce. As far as a deep threat that can give you usable weeks, he does spike throughout the course of the year. We'll have to see who the quarterback is, I guess, but at that point in time. But yeah, otherwise, overall, I don't have too many problems with it.
Yeah, last year, last year you saw almost. You didn't have. You had very few, we'll say, 4 quarterback teams last year in the top 100. It was a lot of 2 quarterback and 3 quarterback builds. And I think depending on the construction and some of the things we'll talk about a little bit more, try to keep that stuff behind the paywall. I guess another little niblet here, a little teaser, is that Mike and I are going to do a couple of these wake and snake type formats that'll be strictly behind the paywall. So we'll talk a lot more strategy. We can get into a lot more thoughts around construction and things like that. I'm just trying to give high level stuff, but I don't want to talk too much strategy or things that the paid subscribers that we're talking about in Discord and in strategy videos and things of that nature. So that was Milkman. Let's do Pete. We'll work our way out. We can end with me, and then we'll wrap up and call it a show. Pete goes 3-6-9-2. Geno Smith, Bryce Young, Tyler Saw out of New Orleans. This is a build I may have considered a 4th quarterback. This is a build I may have considered a 4th quarterback. Just with what you decided to do. I like at tight end. I don't mind going 2 tight ends with Brock Bowers there, waiting until Jontavian Sanders. I guess you're banking on him having a strong year, which is fine because you're banking on Bryce Young as well. So you at least correlated that there. I don't mind that. You go Ashton Genty, Brian Robinson, Cam Scatterbo, Ramondre Stevenson, Justice Hill, Devon Neal. So you've got some New Orleans correlation there as well. And Ashton Genty along with Geno Smith. So you leaned in with Vegas there as well. So good correlation with Vegas and Carolina. And then at wide receiver, you start with McMillan. So again, more correlation there. Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, Jawan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk, Emeka Egbuka, Pat Bryant, Parker Washington, Roman Wilson. Yeah, I don't mind this. This is a type of construction I don't find myself doing all that often. You go Genty and Bowers, so really leaning into Vegas, which is fine. You because of that, you kind of had to pull Geno Smith, 20 picks early on ADP, which I understand. You don't want to you don't want to roll the dice to see if he's still there. I probably would have. Like, I don't see Geno Smith generally going early. The only drafter you're kind of keeping an eye out for is the guy who's got Myers. And in this draft, the guy who had Myers already had 2 quarterbacks. So I think that's probably a spot where, Pete, I probably would have pushed Geno Smith and gone a different direction at that spot. Maybe tried to improve running back a little bit, or taken another. Actually, your wide receivers are okay. You've got 4 here or 5 here in the first 85 picks. That's fine. Maximus, any thoughts on you on this team? Good correlation, and I understand why you pulled Geno up early.
With all the love, Pete, not the biggest fan of this team. But I say it with love. I mean, I definitely, the correlation's fine. Typically, I'm not going to go running back, tight end, because wide receivers they're such a premium in this format to get early on, unless like a Barkley drops to 4 kind of deal, then I understand those kind of, or Bijan drops to 3 or 4. I can kind of see it. My other thing is with the wide receiver rooms, typically with my first 2 or 3, I at least want the wide receiver 1 for the team that they're on. And so, maybe Higgins would be an exception. He's kind of like a 1A, 1B to Chase. But, you started with the rookie, unproven, and then Jameson Williams, very speculative based on how the offense is going to be without Ben Johnson. And then, Chris Olave coming back from injury. I'm curious with Jennings and Ayuk if he got sniped on Brock Purdy maybe. I can't really tell. We probably have to look at the room to see if he had intended to make it.
He got sniped 1 before.
Yeah. Okay. So
by someone who had CMC.
Gotcha.
So that makes sense. This team, I think I like a lot more with Purdy at this whatever that is, 9-10 turn or 8-9 turn. Yeah, I think it's 8-9-10 turn at 108, 109. I like this team a lot more with Purdy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, but that's understandable though. He got sniped. He was intending to do that, it looks like. Yeah. And then otherwise, correlation's fine. Just the beginning of the team and the wide receiver room, just in my opinion, is a little more suspect. But again, it is a unique build. It's not one that I've attempted to do yet with running back, tight end kind of deal. If you are going to do that, Bowers is really the one guy you do it with based on his ADP. But otherwise, in looking at it's got Scatabo, that would be my only comment. Otherwise, correlations there for sure.
Yeah. Let's move over to Black Swan. Subscriber, I believe, last year as well. So good to see him back in the Discord and part of the fam again. He goes 2-7-8-3. Jared Goff, CJ Stroud. Amarian Hampton, Joe Mixon, Travis Etienne, Rashad White, Rico Dowdle, Miles Sanders, Taj Brooks. So, I think on a build like this where you go, your first 2 running backs, I don't mind going 4th round, 5th round. I think that's totally fine. I think that if you don't have what I would call more of an anchor running back, I like taking at least 6. I don't even mind 7 on a build like this. I don't mind this. I think you've got some question marks, but again, we're still, where are we, early June, so July, August, September, we're still 3 full months from basically the start of the regular season. You're curious to see what happens with Hampton. I'm curious to see what happens with Joe Mixon's role with the Nick Chubb signing. Curious what happens with Travis Etienne, with them using such high draft capital on Tootin. But I do like Travis Etienne. He's the guy I find myself taking a good bit. Rachaad White, we've seen what he can do, if you get an injury out of Bucky Irving. I think the role with Rico Dowdle is uncertain. We talked about Miles Sanders and Taj Brooks in the 20th round. I certainly don't mind that as a dart throw. At wide receiver, he goes Amon-Ra, Drake London, Mike Evans, Deebo Samuel. So really strong wide receiver room. Cooper Kupp, Jalen Noel, Isaac Tesla, and Malik Washington. So some really good correlation there with Goff, Amon-Ra, and Tesla. I really do like that. And then you've got the correlation with Joe Mixon and a tight end. He's got Dalton Schultz there to go along with Colston Loveland and TJ Hawkinson. So, yeah, to me, there's some questions around running back. But again, I don't mind it. You gave yourself 7 shots on goal. We're 3 months from the season. A lot of things could shake out. Omarion Hampton has the pedigree to be, he could be a top, 15 running back come the end of the year. So I don't mind that. What say you, Steve, before we do you and I and get out of here?
Gotcha. The quarterbacks, Goff and Stroud, he kind of went with 2 quarterbacks that don't have any rushing ability, really, or very limited with Stroud. I probably would have one of those is fine. I probably would have chosen to go or attempted to go with the quarterback that had a little more rushing ability in this format. And then, but otherwise, I definitely like Deebo Samuel. I think he's a good fit with the Commanders this year and with a coaching staff that he's familiar with dating back to when he was a 49er. And looking here, Malik Washington, you mentioned him earlier. That wide receiver room, it's one injury away from him potentially really having a role as the season develops. So definitely a great, late wide receiver dart throw, and maybe not even a dart throw. He may be completely involved in that offense when it's all said and done.
Yeah. I like it. And yeah, I think of all the teams that we've looked at, I think everyone really did a great job of what they could, I think even Pete, who you and I had some questions about, it's tough when you've got this plan in place, you've got 2 San Francisco wide receivers and you get sniped right in front of you. That's what makes these fast drafts really, really difficult. It's a crappy situation. In a slow draft, you get 8 hours to kind of think about how can I recover? How can I pivot? To do it in 30 seconds is much more difficult. So, but yeah, I like what we've done with all the teams. Let's look at you and I, Steve, and then get out of here. Steve, you go 2-6-9-3, Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert, Kenneth Walker, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Isaiah Guerendo, Roschon Johnson, and Kendre Miller. I don't mind the quarterback room. I like taking shots on 2 quarterbacks with rushing upside. Those are both guys that I find myself drafting a good bit. Kenneth Walker, expecting a strong year out of him this year based on what we've seen out of camp, so I don't mind him kind of being your RB1. Travion Henderson, I think, could give you some strong ceiling depending on what shakes out there in New England. Same with Judkins. We don't really know what that room looks like in Cleveland, so I like that potential. And then you've got some really strong upside guys. We saw what Isaiah Guerendo did last year in his limited opportunities, So I like that. And then, rolling the dice with Johnson and Miller. Miller, we could see what he does if he could stay healthy. So I don't mind that running back room at all. I like the correlation with Johnson and Caleb Williams. So I like that. And then a wide receiver, you go Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd McConkey, Xavier Worthy, DJ Moore, Stephon Diggs. That's a killer start at wide receiver. I love that. And then you wait a little bit later, which I think was a smart play when you've invested so much draft capital early in those first 4 wide receivers. Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Lockett, Deontay Johnson. I like it. Got a good mix of good mix of some upside with, some solid guys there. And then at tight end, you go Mark Andrews, Dallas Goedert, Jawan Johnson. Yeah, I mean, I like it. You got good correlation with Chicago, with both Johnson and DJ Moore. And then you grab Keenan Allen late. And then, Justin Herbert, I like that with Ladd McConkey. I think on a build like this, you could have, instead of Juwan Johnson, I think you could have leaned into either of the potential options at tight end for the Chargers. In the 20th round, I don't mind that, but I don't mind what you did. So I think this is a good build. I think I prefer me if I'm doing this and I'm late, I'm probably taking Dissly here in the 20th round, and probably going wide receiver or running back at this pick instead of 202 going Juwan Johnson, just because you've got a really strong option in Mark Andrews. But overall, again, it's 30-second picks. Like, it's easy to nitpick and say, but overall, I think you did well. And we're gonna get to me. I'm sure as shit I made mistakes. I go 3-6-8-3. I almost forgot this team because it was 5 hours ago. I go Bo Nix. Actually, why don't you do my team? I don't have to do my own team. Of course, I think I did fine.
I got to see it good enough, but let me see. So we got Bo Nix, Jordan Love, and Cam Ward. So you went the 3 quarterback route there.
I wasn't trying to go 3 quarterbacks. I got Jordan Love, 10 picks past ADP, and then Cam Ward, 25 picks past ADP. You just happened to be there, and I had Calvin Ridley already in the build. It just kind of seemed like this is an opportunity to take a third quarterback with correlation. But yeah, I don't know it's a build I needed a third quarterback.
Right. Well, I love Bo Nix. I mean, especially since you have Cortland Sutton. I think that offense is going to continue to evolve with Sean Payton at the helm there. Bo Nix definitely down the stretch looked like a quarterback and he's got the rushing ability to be reckoned with. Then you have a great 1-2 punch at running back, Derrick Henry, and I believe that's Kyren Williams. Mm-hmm. I like both those choices. I mean, they're on offenses. They're good offenses. They know the coaches know how to utilize these two, and they both can be workhorses, and actually are. Then you have Jaylen Warren. I can't really see. Oh, Braylon Allen. Okay. And then Jalen Wright is another one. I like Jalen Wright. Devon Achane can be fragile, with how he's used. And I think Jalen Wright, at least at the moment, may be the next man up there. So, and of course, he's also got speed, which is the Dolphins' MO. And so, he's one flinch away from really being involved there. It's a great late round running back pick. And then I would have liked Audric Estime better if there wasn't some of the other news, J.K. Dobbins meeting with the Broncos. I'm curious if that's going to turn into anything. If it doesn't, I really like Estime. If it does, then you got kind of the signature Sean Payton crowded running back room. I hated last year having to watch between Jaleel McLaughlin and Audric Estime and, who was going to be the hot hand at whatever given point. But again, he's also a late round. I mean, where you got him at is completely fine. And then this is a really good team here. I mean, you managed to get Henry and Kyren, and then you still managed to, what I was telling Pete about earlier is get the wide receiver 1 for said team between Puka and Sutton. And of course, you have the correlation with Nix. And Calvin Ridley's another one. Now with Cam Ward at the helm, that could be a better situation for Ridley with the coaching. I think Matthew Golden would be the only one. I remember we talked about it at the time. I don't know if I would have gone at the spot where you took him, but in saying that, you could very well be the one that's right when everything is said and done as a rookie. How LaFleur is going to be able to utilize him when he gets comfortable enough. And then you have Noel, you have Rashad Bateman. I do like Bateman. I think Bateman just got a contract as well. So that's always good news with somebody like that in a receiver room. And then on your tight ends, I'm fine with Tyler Warren. I think Tyler Warren is very athletic tight end. I think somebody typed in our chat earlier, he could be this year's Brock Bowers. Don't know if I go to that extent, but there it is. But I could definitely see broadly the athletic potential there. Tucker Kraft makes sense, obviously, with Jordan Love. And then you ended it with Elijah Arroyo. And I know Mike is really high on him for the Seahawks. I'm assuming Noah Fant is still there.
He is, yeah.
But, I mean, Elijah Arroyo definitely apparently a very athletic tight end. And, it wouldn't be a stretch to see him take the lead in the tight end room there. So, yeah, no, I like the team. I think he did a good job there.
Yeah, and there are worse 20th round picks. I think in hindsight, I think looking at the team, I think the only thing I do different if it's a slow draft, I think that if I'm going to take Derrick Henry and Kyren Williams, where I'm basically going to be banking on scores from them most weeks, I don't need 6 running backs. I think that was an opportunity, whether it's Warren or Allen or Wright or Estime, I think one of those would make more sense to be a wide receiver just because I took 2 running backs in the 2nd and 3rd round. Like, I don't hate this wide receiver room, but I think, instead of Warren, if I take a wide receiver there at 89, like to go along, like I don't mind Nakua and Sutton and Ridley, and then basically kind of banking on a score from either Golden or Reed every week to go along with Love. Like, I think if you go wide receiver there at 89, like I don't know who's there at 89, but whether it's Shaheed or Higgins or Trey Harris or Darnell Mooney, like are all there. Like, I think I like this team a lot better with one more strong wide receiver. But yeah, I mean, it's the 32nd draft. I don't hate it. So,
I actually do like Shaheed quite a bit. A lot of people may forget that at the beginning of last year, before the injuries, Shaheed was really operating as the wide receiver 1, I thought, more than Olave was. When they were really kind of the first 2 or 3 weeks, the Saints were firing on all cylinders. So I like Shaheed where he's at currently, because between him and Olave, either one of those can be the wide receiver 1 on a given week for that team. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Maximus, I appreciate you joining. We went about 30 minutes longer than Mike and I typically go, but I think it was good to do something a little bit different, put our own little flavor on it with little roster reviews, and always great to connect with you. Is that I should have shouted this out early. Is that a Pink Floyd hat or nice? Well, for those of you who are listening in, really appreciate you joining us today. Don't forget to check us out over at oneweekseason.com. For those of you who are subscribers, look forward to seeing you, both Maximus and I, in the Discord and around the site. And Mike and I will be back again next Monday. But thanks again, Mike. Steve, great to see you, and looking forward to next week, everybody.